Yeah, I mean, so we've been narrowed in on this range of January 8th to January 10th for well over a month at this point, saying that we thought approvals were going to come now. And we're still there. We think we're going to see approvals at some point in the next 2 to 3 days. So today or through Wednesday at the latest, we're expecting to see approvals. So that's what. Go ahead.
What specifically is the SEC going to rule here?
Yeah, so essentially to list these Bitcoin ETFs, they have to go through a special process called 19b4. And it's basically these exchanges and these issuers are asking for a rule change. In this case, the rule change is, can we list spot Bitcoin ETFs? And the SEC has a deadline on the first application there from Cathie Wood's ARK and 21 Shares that are partnered together. And that deadline is January 10th. And the SEC is likely to basically, we expect them to approve the rule change. We think they're going to allow them to list spot Bitcoin ETFs. So that's step one of 2 steps for these things to list and start trading, possibly this week, if not maybe next week. But that's what we're expecting here. We're expecting the approvals to happen. We think it's not going to just happen for Cathie Wood's ARK, but also happen for all the other applicants. So there's 11 different filers right now trying to launch these ETFs. And we saw a flurry of movement this morning in filings.
Right. So to your point with those filings, especially when it comes to BlackRock, Grayscale, and among these others, who are some of these top names that have gone through with these filings so far in recent days?
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I can rattle them off. I mean, Grayscale is the leader here because they have $26 billion in assets right now. Right now, they've announced their fee only at 1.5%. I wouldn't be surprised if they lower it ultimately before they launch, because currently it's operating as an inefficient trust vehicle that has like premiums and discounts. So a lot of people are upset with that. But the SEC, we think, is ready to greenlight their conversion to an ETF. But you have 21 Shares in ARK, who I've mentioned. You have BlackRock. You have Bitwise, who right now is the lowest offering. So they've come in at a fee of they're offering a fee waiver to 0%. So there's 3 different firms offering a 0% fee waiver. Bitwise is down at 0.24% for the expense ratio. Van Eck is down at 0.25%. I mean, these are really low fees. I've been saying for months that I expected these issuers to come in, democratize investing in these funds, drive down costs for end investors, and these fees that I'm seeing are still way lower than anything I was expecting.
Wow. So, James, do these ETFs, if they get approval, do they start going out and raising capital and buying buying Bitcoin? How is this going to work actually in the marketplace?
Yeah, so a lot of them have already raised capital. So there is seed capital on the sidelines. We don't know exactly how much. So there is some seed capital. We know Bitwise has raised 200. Some people have labeled only 2.5 million or 10 million. But we've heard rumors of others that have billions of dollars waiting to invest in these things. So essentially, because of the way these are structured, they're only going to be allowed to do cash creation or redemption. So typically in ETF, you can actually put the underlying asset directly into the fund and then in return get shares of the actual ETF. Right now, the SEC is only allowing cash create. So the only thing that can go into this fund is cash, and then it's on the fund itself to buy the asset. So when all this money starts pouring in, now who knows how much it's going to be. Based on the rumors, it's going to be bigger than anything I was expecting. It's going to be buying of the underlying spot Bitcoin. So there's going to be all these market makers, traders, the Wall Street traders that you think of are going to be out there buying spot Bitcoin for these fund companies.
What would be the timetable if we do hear from SEC commissioners that are expected to vote on those filings this week? So what happens after that, and how quickly can this get through for the marketplace?
Yeah, so like I kind of hinted at this before, there's 2 processes. That 19b4 process, which is that rule change decision, right? That is going to come this week. We think it's going to happen. It has to happen by Wednesday as far as I'm concerned. And that's the first step for these things to launch. The second step is for the S1s or prospectuses or offering documents, these legal documents that disclose how the trust or funds are going to operate, all the risks, those types of things. They also need sign off from another division at the SEC. Now, my initial thinking was that we'd get these 19b4s this week, maybe Wednesday, and then we'd get the S1s at some point later this week or early next week, and then they could begin trading. But once we have both the 19b4s approved and the S1s are effective or complete or approved by the SEC, once both those things are done, within 24 hours, these things are going to begin trading. So it's possible that we could see these things begin trading this week. That's some of the rumors out there right now. People are looking at January 11th. If not, I do think they are going to begin trading the following week at the latest right now. That's my current assessment.
Well, Bitcoin is up about 160% over the last 12 months. Does that mean some of these funds have already been out there in the marketplace buying, or is this thing going to go even higher now once they start getting into the market and buying?
So Great question. I don't know the exact answer to that second part of the question, but the first part is it's unlikely that these funds, and I don't think it's possible for these funds to have been buying the underlying Bitcoin, right? As I mentioned, there is no ability to do the in-kind creation or redemption. So typical ETFs, like I said, you hand over the asset. So in this case, it would be Bitcoin, and in return, you get the shares of the ETF. In this case, the only way to get Bitcoin inside of these legal entities, these ETFs, is for cash to go in and then for Bitcoin to be bought. None of these funds, none of these documents have shown that these companies have bought Bitcoin through those funds. So any buying of Bitcoin is likely still to occur when these things ultimately list.
To Paul's point, when you have a triple-digit gain in Bitcoin over the past year and it trading over 4,800 today, so how much of that do you think is already priced into it? To your point, saying that potentially there could be more buying of it, does that mean there could be more room here to run for Bitcoin, or is it a little bit more challenging after a big run that it's had over the past year?
It's hard to know. I think it would be somewhat challenging. A lot of this run-up has undoubtedly been because of all this hype around ETFs coming. I honestly thought a lot of people were overhyping the amount of money that was going to come into the space, and it's looking like I might have been wrong on that, but I guess we'll find out in the next week or two. That said, the money hasn't been bought. The other flip side to this is, like I mentioned, Grayscale GBTC has 26 billion in assets. It's likely that they are going to see some outflows, some significant outflows, because people were using them for a long time. Some of them were buying GBTC solely to play what I was just talking about, that discount or premium, not necessarily trying to get long-term exposure to Bitcoin. So we'll likely see some outflows there, which will be net selling on Bitcoin. But if there's enough net buying to offset, obviously there might be room to run on the asset. So who knows exactly what's going to happen, but none of the buying and the running up so far in Bitcoin's price is likely from these asset managers buying Bitcoin themselves. It's all been about front running these asset managers. So we'll see exactly when these fund companies are going to actually buy Bitcoin, but as far as I'm concerned and as far as what I've seen, they haven't done any buying yet.
James, what are the odds that the SEC just says, no, we're not going to approve it?
Well, I mean, this has been the last 8 months of my life arguing with people why I thought the SEC was going to approve these things. And I've gone from completely out of consensus with most people on the street and even in the crypto world to now being the consensus opinion. So it'd only be right if we had Gensler do an old-fashioned crypto rug pull on the industry here. That said, the SEC has spent countless man hours. These issuers and law firms have spent countless man hours going back and forth over these documents. There is no way that Gensler would have indicated and had his SEC staff go through all this process if the expectation wasn't that they were going to ultimately approve these things. And he's made, these issuers have basically bent the knee to that cash creation edict I mentioned. They're not allowed to do in kind, which a lot of them did not want to have to do, but the SEC has forced their hand, right? So I don't think it's going to happen. There's a 5% chance here, right? Like Elizabeth Warren hates crypto. Gary Gensler has a close ties with Elizabeth Warren. There's still movement and stuff going on in the back end. So the odds aren't zero that it's going to get denied, but I think they're very, very slim. Maybe 95% that we think it's going to be approved at this point.
And James, just about 30 seconds left. If one gets approved, do they all get approved? Is that the expectation?
Yeah, that's our expectation. We saw this with Ethereum futures ETFs, which is a little bit harder to line everyone up because there was only one process, one step to approve. So in this case, we have the 19B4 and the S1. So the SEC has a lot of maneuverability here to make sure that no one can go out in front of the other ones. And we think they want a level playing field, and they're going to probably allow all 11 of these guys to list and launch at the same time. That's our take here. We think all 11 are going to get approved.